I cracked a joke with Omar Khan the other day that I think you might have appreciated. Good afternoon to you. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Double Shot of Steelers. Just by Omar, and I said, maybe you just didn't get enough big names this summer. And he got a good laugh out of that because he knows what you're expecting. He knows what people in my line of work are expecting. More. Because we're still looking at the WR2 hole. We're still looking at OT2 or OT3, depending on how you'd want to characterize that hole. And he's aware of that. He's also aware that everybody is aware that he's got all kinds of cap space. And the last thing he'd want to do is to go into a clearly, blatantly obvious go for it kind of season and then leave that kind of money on the table. So he knows all this. He gets it. He gets it. And he feels it. That's what I wanted to talk with you about today before we get really going here on the show. Chris Halleck comes in. We're going to talk about some final roster moves and other things like that heading into, 4 days off. He's as acutely aware, not just aware, as any GM in town is about anything. Now, that doesn't mean he's going to be reactive. That doesn't mean he's going to be listening to what we say and saying, oh, no, I've got to do something about it. If he was that type of GM, believe you me, he would have heard the hue and cry from inside the Steelers headquarters on South Water Street on the night of the draft when he was allowing Caleb Johnson to just fall. And all of his offensive people are going, what are we doing here? What are we doing? Move up. Get this kid. Get him. We want him. We need him. And Omar's like, I want him too. He's not willing to give up an asset. And I can picture Omar like with his chair back, his feet up, crossed on his desk, maybe chewing some of Danny Smith's gum, saying, I don't think anybody's going to take him. I think we're going to be fine. And then their pick comes along, and guess what? Caleb Johnson from Iowa goes to Pittsburgh. Crazy, right? Crazy. But he knows what's being said, who's saying it, why they're saying it, and he has a sense for what fans are pushing for too. Now, when you hear that, you're going to think, oh yeah, I've got a voice. Just like sometimes I can delude myself into thinking that I've got a voice in this stuff. I don't. I'm nobody. I'm nothing. I'm on the outside like everybody else is. But I find it to be a fascinating form of behavior for an executive. And I don't mean that as a knock at all. I just think Omar needs to know and feel the lay of the land in all of his various settings. If that's in contract negotiations, if that's what agents are saying, if that's what he just feels like he has to be the guy that's in the middle of it. And I think that's neat. I don't know if it's good or bad. I don't have an opinion on it. But it's definitely going to be worth monitoring as we move forward into the future of his tenure. When we come back, we're going to be joined by Chris Halleck.
At DK Pittsburgh Sports, we take pride in coverage that connects our city's fans to their favorite teams. Now, that connection's stronger than ever. Introducing our all-new state-of-the-art app. Find expert inside reporting and original podcasts. Check live box scores. Track the latest stats. Chat it up with our community of thousands of fans, all in one place. The new app from DK Pittsburgh Sports. Coverage that connects.
Welcome back and welcome to Chris Halleck.
What's
here on
up?
Double Shot. Hey.
How are we doing today?
Probably not as good as you.
It's been nice to have a little siesta.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that.
It's been nice to have a little siesta today. Got on the golf course today, played like absolute crap, and still had a good time.
Isn't that what golf is all about, though?
It's about it's a game.
Is playing like crap and still having a good time?
It was a beautiful day today. It's hard to play bad and be unhappy when the weather was as nice as it is today. It's a beautiful day outside.
It remains really, really nice. There's a nice cool breeze out there. We got some very welcome, I should say, cloud cover. It's I'm really, really into this kind of weather. This is my Pittsburgh weather.
And it's still August. Like, we were in the 40s this morning.
Oh yeah, this is high school football weather is what we used to call it.
Oh yeah.
It feels like it's a Friday morning and you're ready to go play some football. There is football that begins this weekend. There's a lot of football that begins this weekend. It just does not happen to be in the National Football League. The Steelers and Jets, of course, get going on the 7th of September, and they have 4 days off right now. That begins today. They will come back. We don't have this officially yet. They'll probably practice Monday or do something Monday.
Oh, yeah.
And then have the players will have a day off Tuesday. That'll be the Mike Tomlin first official of the season press conference. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday practices. Saturday, and then Sunday is the kickoff.
Yeah, Monday.
Go ahead.
I'm just saying Monday. Yes, Monday really. I mean, I understand like Wednesday is truly like the first, like that'll be when the first injury report and everything comes out. But Monday really is the beginning of the week because I mean, let's face it, even during the NFL season, like Monday is still the week. You know, like coaches are already starting to look at the next opponent. Like it's not like, you know, Monday is like completely reflective on the previous game. Monday is going to be the beginning of Jets week. It really is. And so we'll obviously hear from Tomlin on Tuesday. And then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday will be business as usual. But yeah, Monday, it really begins. It's crazy.
We have a bunch of stuff we can talk about today. I wanted to get your thoughts on what I opened with, Chris. And it was just to look at Omar Khan and his awareness of everything around him. He's a lot of GMs either purport or actually live a life where they sound out everything around them from the public standpoint. Omar knows who's saying what, who's expressing what, the general fan sentiment on a given issue.
Yeah.
I find that fascinating. I really do, because on one hand, I can see the benefits of going either way, but I can much more easily see the benefits of just saying, I don't need to hear that crap. I don't need to hear what those fans are saying. I don't need to hear what those agents are saying. I definitely don't need to hear what the reporters are saying. My goodness. But he knows. That doesn't mean he does anything about it. It doesn't mean he reacts to what anyone says, including his offensive people freaking out as Caleb Johnson is falling down the draft. But it's a really neat approach. I've covered a lot of GMs, and almost all of them will say, I don't read anything. I got work to do.
Yeah, I don't think Omar sits there and flips through his phone and he's like, I wonder what DK Pittsburgh Sports is writing today, or I wonder what ESPN is writing today. I don't think he does that. What I think happens is PR does a pretty good job of being like, hey, Omar, get a load of this. And then they'll kind of tell him what's circulating around. And then Omar just, leans back in his chair, throws his head back and laughs. And then he just, continues on with his day. But I think he does stay plugged in pretty much because of that. I do think, the team is pretty much aware of all the things that go. So if you're one of the ones who go on social media and start complaining or start throwing ideas out there, believe me, the team hears about it more often than people think.
Yes.
Yeah.
This team does.
Yeah.
There are rabbit ears and a half. And now I always feel like it's worth reminding everybody that in the NFL, life is a little bit different in this regard. In the National Football League, the individual teams have to be aware of what's being reported, because there are guidelines and rules as it relates to what can be said regarding watching a practice or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And if anybody, including the two people you're looking at here, violate those things, there's going to be a discussion like, hey, what was that all about? Did you get that confirmed in the room or whatever else? Because that's the policy here. You can report anything as long as you get it confirmed by a player in the locker room. Mm-hmm. And that's a way more accessible approach, by the way, than most of the other 31 teams.
You want to hear one thing, and this is just my own complaining about it. This is the reporter complaining again. But when the practice squad was coming out, you have the guys, who get the texts from agents and report it on Twitter. They're sitting there reporting who's back on the practice squad while they're however many miles away. I'm literally at practice at the time watching these guys participate in practice, but because we are not allowed to report anything that we see at practice, whether obviously if it's like during the shooting period, we can report that.
Yes.
But if it's not during
that period, by the way, means the first 20 or so minutes when the team is just stretching and not giving anything away, they allow photographers to do their jobs. Okay. The photographers go around and take the shots, and they're not all that exciting. Again, it's just somebody, doing calisthenics or whatever.
Yeah.
But what we see during those first 20 minutes, that's obviously fair game, because if the photographers are shooting it, okay. Yeah. So that's where a lot of cases, including one that Chris had yesterday in reporting on our app, where he could say, hey, who was it? Somebody returned. I can't remember it now.
Chuck Clark was coming back.
Chuck Clark. Well, I don't think that's what this was. This was something else. This was on the field.
Oh,
Thornhill. Juan Thornhill. That's who it was. Came back to practice.
Yeah.
And Chris could report that because there was Juan Thornhill, and he was out there in the first 20 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm literally but I can't report that until after practice is over. So as all of these guys who have agents texting them, hey, Beanie Bishop's back. Hey, DeMarvin Leal's back. I literally had eyes on 14 of the 16 players that ended up being signed to the practice squad and knew before those guys were even tweeting it. But I can't report it until after either the team sends out a news release on it, or until practice is over, which the team beat us all to the punch and put out the news release, which is just like, great. I can just put the group of 16 that they signed and put it out there. So it's just fun. Like, that's like the other little part. But then again, it's give and take. We also get to watch all of practice, and not all 32 teams do that.
Yeah, I've been on the other end of that. Like, I think I've told a story here before where I had to cover the Ravens for a week at their practice facility in Owings Mills, Maryland. And they will treat you like the enemy, which is in the journalism world a little uncomfortable, to be honest with you, because we're not fans, and yet they treat you like you're running after every practice and telling the Steelers all their deep, dark secrets. And it's like, it's not, nobody understands what it is that we do for a living. Dale Penny says, DK, I understand what you're saying, but we're going into the season for the second year in a row with arguably one of the worst wide receiver rooms in the NFL. Okay, let's start with this. If your wide receiver room is headlined by DK Metcalf, you do not have one of the worst wide receiver rooms anywhere. Okay? I just, you got to remember that it's about the game or the games. It's not about the room. Okay? Metcalf is out there for X% of the snaps that the wide receiver room will take for the entire season. You'll take the Metcalf quotient in that. Okay? The rest of the room, I don't know that it's a catastrophe the way you're making it sound, Dale. I am not satisfied with it, mostly because I'm worried about what would happen if Metcalf goes down. But I don't see it as like, oh my God, this is the end of the world.
But that's also a problem that all but 4 or 5 teams have, that if their number one receiver goes down, that they're taking a massive hit.
Yeah, I think we're thinking everybody is Cincinnati, and they're not.
Right. No. Cincinnati is an exception. They're not the rule. Not every team has Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, or CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens. Nobody, not every team has that. And I'm telling you right now, Like, Steelers fans are like, well, we had George Pickens. We've already been down that road. We're not going down that road again. But the question that I'd rather pose, and please bring it to me in the comments, and I will absolutely respond to you. Like, and like most of the time, I'm probably going to give you an answer you don't like. Who of the realistic options that the Steelers had to add this offseason at wide receiver is more impactful player than Jonnu Smith?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't find that there are too many good comebacks for that.
Okay, Dylan. Romeo Doubs is not a legitimate option because the Packers have not put him on the
He's not available.
market. You're right.
Yeah, he's not available.
And now he's saying he's calling it, and that's fine. But I'm just saying, like,
Okay.
this is what some people are gonna say. Oh, what about Jacoby Myers? The Raiders have to be willing to trade him in order for him to be a legitimate option. You can't just say, "Hey, Omar, go get Jacoby Myers." The Raiders have to be willing to trade him.
I hope this part is understood here. In the 2024 NFL season, for the Miami Dolphins, Jonnu Smith caught 88 passes for 884 yards. He had an average catch of 10 yards. Obviously, simple math there. A long of 57, a tight end with a long of 57 and 8 touchdowns. He also was, and I don't have the number in front of me here, but if memory serves, he was a first down factory. And he was the number one receiver on his team. Not the number one receiving tight end, the number one receiver on his team. Now, there are all kinds of flaws to what the Dolphins. Oh, here it is. You're not going to believe this. You ready for this stat? He had 80 of those 88 catches.
Yeah.
You're going to think I'm making this up. 55 of them were for first downs.
Yeah, I know. He automatically moved the sticks for them.
I'm going to do this again.
Yeah.
Okay. His career high in first downs.
Yeah.
Was 26 before that. It was the previous season. He also had a 25. And then he went to 55. He is also seen, and this is part of who he is, as an elite yak guy. He doesn't just, we think of tight ends a lot in Pittsburgh as catch the ball, got the first down, go down.
Yeah.
Okay. Turn around, face the quarterback somewhere in the middle of the field, catch the ball, go down. That is not who this player is.
Yeah.
So the idea that the Steelers don't have alternate targets or alternate options for Aaron Rodgers is wild. Just because you're looking at a depth chart, just because you're looking at the wide receiver room, just because the tight ends are in a separate room.
Yeah. Devontae Adams is another name that came up. And yes, I would say that he would be more impactful for sure. But Damien makes a pretty good point. He wanted to go West Coast. If he doesn't want to come here, you can't twist his arm again. With trades, sometimes you have to get 3 parties all to agree. You have to get the 2 teams and then the player to agree. And with free agents, it's 2 sides. The player has to be willing to come here. If the player's not willing to, then you can say, well, Omar failed. Well, did Omar really fail, or did the player just not want to play for the Steelers? Like, regardless of the situation. I saw somebody else say that, well, Jonnu Smith's not a flanker. He's not a Z receiver. I get that. He's not a wide receiver. I get that. But that doesn't mean that he can't be a dangerous weapon and a weapon that you can literally always have the defense in some sort of disadvantage. If you have 2 tight ends on the field, the defense can put their base defense out there, which is normally what they would do, which means they've got the normal front 7, which most of the time is 4 defensive linemen, 3 linebackers, and then you have 4 defensive backs. If that's the case, that means a linebacker for sure is covering either Pat Freiermuth or Jonnu Smith. That's a win. 1,000% that's a win. If the defense, so you already have an advantage there, especially if it's a linebacker on Jonnu Smith. Good luck. Then if the defense decides to go into nickel, put an extra defensive back on the field because they know Jonnu Smith can beat linebackers in coverage, then now you have an advantage in being able to run the ball. Now you have 5 of the 11 guys on the field who are usually not the best tacklers. So either way, you have an advantage over what the defense puts on the field when you have this kind of like collection of talent. And so, yeah, I don't think people are talking enough about the kind of impact that Jonnu Smith will have on this offense because you didn't see him in the preseason.
It's true. And it's funny that, in fairness here to everybody not talking about Jonnu Smith, we also haven't talked about him, and there's a reason for that. He hasn't been participating, and this goes back to near the beginning of training camp. He's had an issue of some kind, and he wasn't out there, and now he's out there. We're getting closer to the season. He's apparently ready to roll, judging from what he said yesterday. Good for him. Awesome. At the same time, he still exists, and his 2024 season still exists. So I think you're going to see, I can't stress this enough. You're going to see an offense that doesn't remind you of anything. Okay. When it shows up, for good or bad, you're going to see the Steelers trying things that you wouldn't even have had a concept that they'd be trying as recently as a week or two ago, because they weren't going to show anything. They never, ever, ever, ever had all their personnel on the field together. And I think you can say that pretty much uniformly, Chris. I mean, even including Latrobe, because somebody was always out. Now they've got, when they come back, whether it's Monday or next Wednesday or whatever, they're going to come back and look at each other in that huddle for the first time as a group of 11 or 12, depending on the formation. And they're going to say, hey, look at this. Hey, I think we can make something out of this.
Justin brings up that Jonnu is a bad blocker, that he's a tell. I get that.
He's a tell when he's the third tight end. I don't think you're a tell.
So I what my point here is, yes, he's from the perspective of playing tight end. Yes, he's a bad blocker. He's probably the worst blocking tight end on the team. But if you have two tight ends on the field, and Jonnu Smith is one of them, what's better in terms of being able to block? Having three receivers on the field and having the one who's probably lined up closest to the end line being the blocker, or having Jonnu Smith be that blocker? Jonnu Smith is a better blocker than the probably like all but like maybe five receivers in the entire league. Like, let's not, like, yes, for being a tight end, he's a bad blocker, but compared to wide receivers, he's a significantly better blocker. Right. I mean, come
just
on.
By existing, just by standing there. Yeah.
Not every team has Puka Nacua. Like, you'd love to have that player. He's a rare breed. And the fact that Sean McVay is doing what he's doing with him is just phenomenal. I mean, he's in a perfect situation with a coach who knows how to use him. But Jonnu Smith is not a bad blocker for what the Steelers need him to do.
Cody Silva comes in and drops a couple of bucks on the process and says the Steelers' way is a 2-yard run, a 2-yard pass, a quarterback sack, and a punt. Cody's really ready for the opener, man. Cody's he's clearing his throat there at the opera, you know?
Yeah.
In fairness to Cody, there were signs in the preseason that looked like that. We saw, 2nd and 9, 3rd and 8, and then, incomplete pass or a pass short of the sticks or something else that's equally futile. It's tough to watch, but that's not going to be this. This is why I'm stressing here. They're not necessarily going to shine. I'm not saying that everything that they're going to do is going to work, but what they're going to attempt is very different than anything that we've seen. Doesn't mean it'll succeed. Please understand the difference. They're going to try stuff that we haven't seen. They're going to be trying a full-time blocking scheme, just as an example, that we haven't seen, not on a full-time basis. They're going to be trying formations that we literally have not seen from the Pittsburgh Steelers football franchise ever. And they're going to be doing so with a 4-time MVP, and they're going to be doing so with an all-pro wide receiver. And they're going to be we'll see. Okay. That's all I'm saying here. Prejudging the offense in either direction, good or bad, I feel like is a mistake.
I agree with that. Really quick, William asks, who is the WR2 when Smith is in Tennessee? That was Corey Davis. For those 2 years. Yes, I agree with that. And the one thing that I want to kind of help to add context is that the NFL is currently going through a bit of a, I don't want to say a renaissance or a revolution or anything like along those lines, but gently swinging back to being more of a running league. Gently. You're seeing teams being able to move the ball more consistently by having success on the ground than feeling like they have to air it out all the time. I feel like that was like Killer B era of the Steelers, right? That was like Ben Roethlisberger, Antonio Brown, Juju, Martavis Bryant, all those guys. And then you had, like, at that time, a whole bunch of other offenses that were just, I mean, Drew Brees, it seemed like there was a quarterback every single year that was eclipsing 5,000 yards or getting close to it. Now it's like, is anybody getting close? No, but then you look at teams that are racking up yards on the ground. I mean, the Ravens, like, they're ridiculous with how many rushing yards they get. And some of the best teams in the league are some of the best running teams.
That's exactly what I'm calling up here as you're speaking, Chris. The Steelers were the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They were the 11th most productive team rushing the ball, 127.4 yards per game. Now, they also were, I believe, 4th or 5th in terms of attempts, which tells you that they weren't all that effective at it, but they did do it a lot. When you look at the teams that are at the top of the rushing list, and there's two ways to look at this, but they're the better teams in the league. They are the Ravens, the Eagles, Commanders didn't rise up out of nowhere, Packers, Lions, the Bills are up there. Now, you can very easily counter that by saying, well, of course, they have a lead, and in the third and fourth quarter, they're going to run the ball, so they're going to do it more often. But we also know how these teams are run.
Yeah.
And we also know that they do this from the outset, and they don't apologize for it. The Eagles are the example that leaps out at me here, because the Ravens are built around Lamar, plain and simple. I don't know that the Eagles are built around Jalen Hurts.
No, they're built around Saquon Barkley.
Right.
with the added bonus of having A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, too.
Yeah, no, they have and what they're built around is that line.
Yeah, well, that's
okay, true. With respect to Saquon.
Yeah.
And they come out doing that to you in the first quarter. In the second quarter, they're not doing that just when they get the lead.
Yeah.
And they do it and they hurt you. They physically hurt you. They go at you the whole game and they wear you down. And I wouldn't keep bringing these guys up, except that you know and I know, Andy Weidel knows, that this is the model. This is what it is that the Steelers are looking at.
And there are a number of ways to do this. You know, as we talk, as you know, as you mentioned, like, you know, the Ravens do it their way. You know, obviously Lamar is, everything works around Lamar, but then you add Derrick Henry to the mix, and that just put them over the top. That made them a nearly unstoppable offense. The Eagles are, I mean, they have Saquon Barkley, but then again, they have A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. They have weapons in the passing game. The Lions, though, they don't have this one feature back type. They've got that two-headed monster in Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, and they just, that committee works. They have a perfect balance. They complement each other. And maybe that's what the Steelers could be more or less looking for when it comes to Jaylen Warren and Caleb Johnson, or the combination of the three that they have. There are different ways to go about this, but if the Steelers can be successful on the ground, that WR2 doesn't matter nearly as much, because you have DK Metcalf, you have Jonnu Smith, you have Pat Freiermuth, and we're acting like Calvin Austin and Roman Wilson are they don't belong on a roster. Like, come on.
Well, they have strides to make.
They do. I'm not.
I think that's fair.
Today's Chalk Talk, whenever it drops after these shows are over, is on Roman Wilson and where he needs to improve in route running. Like, there's room to grow for sure, but let's not act like they're also just these guys to be cast aside either.
Yeah, and let's also not act like the offensive coordinator is going to be Matt Canada into perpetuity. Yinzer Joe says, so again, the Steelers are going to be predictable. By using Jonnu Smith, the opposition knows that you're passing. And when Darnell Washington is, they know that they're running. Joe, respectfully here, what they just showed everybody, the thousands and thousands of people who made it out to St. Vincent College, and I understand not everybody can do that, okay, is not that at all. Jonnu Smith was actually pitched the ball at one point coming out of the backfield on a nothing but tight ends set. Darnell, when he has lined up, has been targeted more than he's ever been targeted. If you as a defense are not taking number 80 seriously as a target, you're going to get burned, and you're going to get burned in a very, very big way here. So I understand it seems to be a need here today to begin getting into full voice for next Sunday about how mad you are about everything, but this isn't it. This isn't it. Now, I keep cautioning this, and I feel this is important. I'm saying here, I'm not predicting anything. I'm out of the predictions business permanently. I'm not saying when I say this that the Steelers are going to be great at this. What I am saying is that the Steelers are going to try different things. There's a difference. There's a big difference in those two statements. You know, somebody, I can't find it now here, I'm looking back for it, said something like, well, I really hope you're right, DK. I didn't predict that they would do well. I'm just predicting that they'll try. I'm not predicting. I know that they're going to try different things because I've seen the playbook in action.
Yeah. There was a really good question here. Who can cover 80? Seriously.
Yeah.
The answer is nobody. Nobody can cover them. I mean, seriously, if the Steelers get to 1st and goal on the 3-yard line, they better run 3 fades in a row to Darnell Washington. One of them will get caught.
Get caught. He's going to find a way to get open regardless. Level Outlook says, why don't the Steelers trust Darnell Washington? Pushing him to 3rd string seems not cool. It's not 3rd string. These depth charts are not what they appear to be.
Yep.
If you have an offense that commonly shows you 3 tight ends, that's your 1st string of that formation. That is your 1st string with 3 tight ends. It's like saying, you know, everybody behind Swan and Stallworth was okay. Well, yeah, in the 70s. But once you got to the era of football in this century, where it's beyond normal to see 4 wide receivers, 5 wides, that's your new 1st team. Simple as that. We get caught up in you know what football looked like 40, 50 years ago and think that there isn't any stretching out of that.
And also for anybody who watched the team last year, you saw how often the tight ends rotated. Like, how many times did we see 12 personnel on the field when the 2 tight ends were Connor Hayward and Michael Pruitt? Like, too often. That's not going to be the case this year because their tight end room is stacked. It just is.
And the tight ends are going to be on the field a lot, and they are going to rotate, and it's not going to be easy or convenient for anybody, ourselves included, to look out there and say, oh, that's what they're trying to do. These aren't going to be about tells. The one thing that I've heard most commonly from the players about Arthur Smith since he came on as a coordinator is that the days of the tells are over. They had tells galore when Matt Canada. And by the way, if you're new to football, being respectful here, what a tell is means you're showing something in your formation that tells the other guys what it is that you're about to do or what it is that you're very, very likely to do. Casas comes in with a $20 contribution and asks, I'd love to see a trade for Jacoby Myers. He says, I know I'm spelling it wrong. He is, and we'll let it go. Also, a reminder, I'm going to be in town for the home opener and want to visit the shop that Friday. Believe you me, we will be here and we will be open for you. My brother, what do you think of Jacoby Myers and what kind of fit he could be?
He'd be a great fit. I mean, when we talk about receivers that could possibly be more impactful than Jonnu Smith, Jacoby Myers would be one of them. He's a great guy. I mean, he would fit exactly what the Steelers need on the other side. And I think that if the Raiders ever made him available via trade, that Omar probably is making that phone call before they even declare that he's available for trade. I think the Steelers would love to have him. This is not a failure on Omar's part for not getting Jacoby Myers. The Raiders have to be willing to trade him. If the Raiders ever call Omar back and say, hey, never mind, we're not going to be able to work something out, and he's willing to miss games over this, and we'd rather recoup the value. If you are willing to give us a third-round pick or whatever it is, I'm just throwing something out there, then we can try to build a trade around that. And then I think the Steelers would find a way to have that done. But the Raiders have to be willing to trade him. But, yeah, in terms of a fit, it'd be phenomenal. It'd be great.
We're gonna take a couple more here today. Jason says, do you think the Steelers will stop playing down to their opponents this year? I have not been a proponent of that theory for a long time. I think it gets grossly exaggerated.
Fan fiction.
Because the emotion of the moment when you don't beat a team that is either legitimately bad or even just perceived as being bad historically is overwhelming. And it engulfs the rest of it. Well, if they had only beaten that team, and Tomlin always has his teams, like the numbers, the data on this. I've done this myself. I've gone back over 10 years. I don't have it in front of me here, so you're going to want me to read it off to you. I don't have it. 10 years of Tomlin games. And you'll be able to say, yeah, but there was that one time in Oakland. Remember that? No way they should have lost that game. You're right. But that doesn't mean they haven't taken care of business against bad teams. The same people who bring this up, Jason, respectfully, are the same ones who say, yeah, they started 10-3 last year, but those weren't great teams. They were 10-3.
Yeah, you're 10-3.
Do you know how many teams in the NFL? How many teams in the NFL right now would take a 10-3 start? 32 of them.
Yep.
The best team in football would sign up for a 10-3 start right now.
Yep.
That's what the Steelers did. And yet somehow we're supposed to assume that they don't take care of the bad teams. They faced last year back-to-back the two New Jersey teams. Just obliterated them.
Yep. Doesn't count. Nope. Only that Oakland game from 7 years ago counts. This one really rubs people the wrong way, too. I can guarantee you this. They're not going to want to hear this because this perception, Chris, this is cemented. I know it is. I know that because I have like family members who like buy into this and like complain to me about it. I'm like, dude, the only thing that I'm going to say about it, and it's going to sound like holier than thou and high and mighty, and I really don't mean for it to sound this way, but it's spoken like somebody who's never watched Mike Tomlin conduct a practice. If you've ever watched Mike Tomlin go through the process of getting his team ready on Wednesday, on Thursday, on Friday, before practice, during practice, what he does in the locker room after practice, you would never believe that theory again. That's the only thing that I can say. And that's one of the things. Actually, I'm not ready to stop fighting on this. Okay. Swan says maybe teams are playing up to the Steelers. No, what's happening, Swan, is the Steelers are actually beating those teams. Okay? Yeah. That's the math here. What is happening 90% of the time is that the Steelers are beating these teams. Tomlin actually has one of the better records in football over the past few years when it comes to taking care of these types of teams. But because this perception is so ingrained, when it happens, we turn it into a civic cause to complain about it. The fact of the matter is the NFL is a parity league. Those teams are going to rise up on any given Sunday. But on almost every given Sunday, the Steelers will beat these teams. Yeah, Elwin brings up, Elwin is scarred by this. The 2 4-11 teams in a row 3 years ago. Yeah, right. Cardinals and Patriots, yeah.
But the data is that the Steelers take care of these types of teams way more often than the rest of the NFL does.
And also, who was the quarterback in there? Who were the quarterbacks in those games? Mitch Trubisky. That's why you lost. You had crap at quarterback.
Yeah, it wasn't because they didn't show up motivated or whatever else here.
Mitch Trubisky was the quarterback for those games.
You know what? We could pound this issue for an hour straight. We could show up with data galore, and this is one of those, like, you're just not going to change anybody's mind on this.
I mean, there is the any given Sunday element. There are some days where a really bad team just has everything go right for them. Like, in terms of, like, they come in, they had a really good week of practice, and they come in and they are going to play the best game that they're going to play all season long. And sometimes that just so happens to be on the Sunday that they play the Steelers. And there are going to be some weeks in which the Steelers have a really bad week of practice and they go into Sunday and they fall flat because of it. That doesn't mean Tomlin didn't do his job. That means because these games are played by, how many guys are active on Sundays? 46, 47.
Mm-hmm.
These are human beings playing. Sometimes they just don't play as well. This is not Madden where you can just go out there and the 94 overall always plays at a 94 overall.
Listen, you're hearing this right now from somebody who has publicly called for this head coach to be fired.
Yeah.
So this isn't sticking up for Tomlin. This isn't defending him. I have reasons that aren't this, that I believe that the Steelers should move on and get a new coach. But as I go back through the 2024 NFL schedule of the Steelers, they played at Atlanta. What did they do? They won. They played at Denver with their shiny new quarterback, whatever. They not only won, they smothered that team. And they ended up
how many points?
6. And the
scored 6 points.
They went out, they played the Chargers. I'm sorry, the Chargers were here.
Yeah.
Okay, the Chargers were missing their quarterback and whatever else here. Chargers still ended up being a pretty good team. What did the Steelers do? They won that game. They played in Indianapolis. Justin Fields almost beat the Colts by himself, if you'll recall. Mm-hmm. They played against the Cowboys here. Dak Prescott was out of his mind. That's going to happen when a good quarterback beats you. Then at Raiders, totally took care of business out there, 32-13. The two New Jersey teams slaughtered them both. These are bad teams. Mm-hmm. These were all bad teams. No one says, yeah, remember that one time they went out to Las Vegas and beat the Raiders the way they were supposed to? No. No. Then they went into Landover and they beat a team that ended up in the conference championship game. Then they beat the Ravens. And yet all we remember are these games from 3 and 4 years ago, and the numbers don't add up. The numbers do not support your cause here that the Steelers play down to their opponents.
The mantra, the theory that Tomlin...
And then this happens. I'm sorry. Then Sean comes in and says, next topic, please, because no one likes being wrong. But this is the truth. This is real.
Yeah. Well, and then I think fans would have a better chance of buying into theories that actually have some factual, like some actual evidence that you could like cling on to. Like Tomlin doesn't play well on short weeks. Like there's an actual record for that. He does like the Steelers are not good. Like the Steelers go to Cincinnati on Thursday night this year. I'm calling it a loss. Like I'm predicting it to be a loss. I don't think they're going to go to Cincinnati and win on Thursday night. Maybe if the game were home, maybe I feel a little bit better about it. But they will have just played the Browns, and even though the Browns are terrible, it's still an AFC North game. They could still be beat up, whatever, and then they have to go play Cincinnati 4 days later. I think it's a loss. But Tomlin's also really great coming off of a bye, and he's not quite as good, but still really good coming off of that mini bye. So when they play the Thursday night game, and then they come back around and play 10 days later, so they have those like the few days off. Tomlin's really good on those games too. So the game, I don't remember who they play, but the game after they play Cincinnati on that Thursday night, that's probably going to be a win because Tomlin's teams.
Yeah, there's data to support that one. Yeah. There is not data to support this one.
Yeah,
there's just somebody yelling on a radio talk show or social media or whatever it is that you have. Michelle asks, what wide receivers are there? Who's the guy that's the outside target right now that you have your eye on the most, Chris?
The only guy that somewhat moves the needle, and when I say moves the needle, I mean like barely, just a little bit, would be Kendrick Bourne. And
yeah, it's not exciting.
It's not anything. Would I feel a little bit better about the depth of receiver if you had Kendrick Bourne? Sure, I'd feel a lot better about the depth. Still wouldn't feel great about the receiver room in general, because when you're talking about what the main issue is if DK Metcalf goes down, who takes his spot over there as the X? That is the biggest issue. It's not the fact that Roman Wilson and Calvin Austin can't somehow manufacture being the Z receiver over on the other side. There are going to be certain plays that Calvin Austin can run when he's on the outside. There are going to be certain plays that Roman Wilson can run when he's on the outside, or Scotty Miller. Scotty Miller, people are forgetting about Scotty Miller. He was probably their best receiver outside of Metcalf in the preseason. And he's a legitimate.
He was certainly their most reliable.
Yeah, and he's a legitimate NFL receiver. And by the way, I think Tom Brady liked him. That's a pretty good quarterback to like.
Yeah, those guys, they love that. They love those types of receivers, though. That's like Ben and his Ryan Switzer.
And you know what other quarterback really liked that type of a receiver? Aaron Rodgers, when he had Jordy Nelson.
Aaron Rodgers does not mind leaning on Scotty. Tell you that right now. You could see that in Latrobe. Does not mind leaning on him. They're looking for an outlet. They want somebody to show them something that they can see, especially when it comes check down time.
Oh yeah.
They value that a lot. That preserves their livelihood, their bodies, their minds. That's not a small thing in their world. Our last I'm gonna take one more question here today.
Really quick before we take a question. This is another one. Eric says, go get Jauan Jennings. He has to be available via trade. Just because he requested a trade doesn't mean the 49ers are going to trade him. Yes, I'm sure the Steelers would love to have Jauan Jennings, but he has to be made available via trade.
Yeah, it's not just demanding a trade doesn't get it done.
Nope.
The team has to agree to it. And by the way, when the player demands a trade and the team has no reaction to it, the resolution for those scenarios, way more often than not, is exactly what we just saw with Terry McLaurin.
Yep.
Which is eventually they're just going to sit down in the same room, look at each other and go, all right, what do we need to do here? And then they get it done.
Denny says it here. Lynch said he's not being traded. There's that too. So if John Lynch is saying we're not trading Jauan Jennings, doesn't matter. You can't get him.
Yeah, he can just say, we've had enough of all the wide receivers wanting out of the 49ers organization year after year.
Pittsburgh fan, just go get Jamar Chase. Just go get it done.
That's it. And also send them your second punter for T. Higgins, and we'll just call it a day.
People are getting it now. They're getting it. Just go get Justin Jefferson. Just get it done. Remember when that one started up, when people thought that Justin Jefferson possibly could have been traded?
Yeah, that didn't last very long.
That was like early March.
That didn't last very long.
No.
Last question does go to Michael Cross. It's based in the real world. I like that. It says, so if the Steelers ended up trading for a receiver, who would get cut then? You want to know something? We just sang all these songs about Scotty Miller, but the truth is, you go on that list, you're either cutting Miller or you're cutting Ben Skoranek, and you're going to have a really tough time cutting Skoranek because of the special teams. Just saying. Or you cut from another position, which is also a possibility. Nobody says you have to cut a wide receiver.
Right, and there have been times the Steelers have kept 6 receivers. So it's not that common for them to do it, but they will do it every now and then. And right now they have 10 offensive linemen and 8 defensive tackles. That seems like a lot to me.
There's a lot of OL in the equation here. Ryan McCollum, it always feels like a luxury to me. Yes, you want somebody else to be able to snap the ball, but just throwing it out there.
To me, the guy who they just brought back, Max Sharping, to me, he's the guy who's probably he's probably the closest guy to the chopping block. If something like that were to happen, if a trade or a signing does end up happening, that's probably the route that they go. And that might be why a guy like Max Sharping is on the roster right now, because it gives them the flexibility to, hey, if we do add a receiver, we can add one without having to get rid of a Scotty Miller or Ben Skoranek, because we really like both guys.
Matt Rizzo has some kind words about the program, says that he just downloaded the DK Pittsburgh Sports app. That's very much appreciated. To anybody who has done this, just go to Apple, or hasn't done this, I should say. Go to Apple or your Google Play on your Android device and just type DK Pittsburgh Sports in. You'll find our app. You can download it for free. And then from there, if you want the good version of it, there is a good version, like a really good version, a premium version. It's not expensive. Trust me. Better yet, don't trust me. Send me an email directly, and I will send you a discount package on this thing that you personally, and you will not say no to this. Okay, because the deal is too good, not because email. just do this. Okay, get the app and then send me this email, and we're gonna take care of you here, just like we did, as you can tell here with Andrew Watkins. It is a very, very nice app. There's a reason that it's the #1 download in the Pittsburgh market. In addition to having some decent content, every once in a while, Chris makes a contribution.
Yeah, every now and then.
Every now and then.
Every now and then.
He partakes in the process.
Yeah.
Guys, we'll see you. We'll see you tomorrow.